Okay, hello.
We'll give us some Isa.
Mm. Beautiful. Really beautiful. Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting to me is the name that she introduced herself to me by, Isa, is the female name of Jesus. In fact, the Isas are often fully called Isa de Jesus.
Mm.
Um,
Fascinating.
it is only in the sense that I've been shown a previous incarnation, as we would look at that as an Essene, as
Mm-hmm.
walking with the Essenes. And so that's sort of why it's interesting to me, because I've seen some lifetimes in Mesopotamia. I've been taken to guides that I have that graduated from lifetimes in Mesopotamia and that kind of stuff. So for that reason, yeah, it seems like there's that kind of a connection, that level of connection connecting me through the crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fascinating to me.
Yeah, and that's actually, we're coming together now. For me, it's been in a synchronous way, as these meetings often happen,
Mm.
where I feel oh, this is something to pay attention to, and we need to connect. And I follow that resonance in my body. Um, the first time I became aware of you was, I believe, in the 2009 time frame. And you were talking about the beings in the crystals, right? Or the contact through the crystals, or
Well, not yet in 2009.
okay, then that must have been another, because it's several times I have landed on a video of yours or something where I've gone, oh, there she is again. Mm-hmm.
It may have been a video about the message for me to go find my crystal, because
Oh.
I did a log on that one. I was living in Santa Monica, crystal shop heaven, planet Earth. And, it always surprised me too. I come from Las Vegas, and I'm not a Californian, in that, was the energy was very different. So not a crystal shop person, not a beach person,
Yeah,
and all of that. But I
the
was
typical stuff. Yeah.
sinking into the energy. I was a yogi. I had moved there to study more closely with my teacher who lived there, which is what brought me there. So I was sinking into the energy. And most people I knew were into crystals. And of course, the yoga rooms were always full of the crystals. And so I had a feeling in me, starting to rise up relative to the crystals when I got the message to go find your crystal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not any crystal, your crystal. And I
Yeah.
started looking, and I did that report when I found Isa, which was years and years later. I don't know how many crystal shops I was in,
Yeah.
and years between getting that message and actually connecting with Isa. But darned if, I mean, it wasn't just like a star lighting up in the shop when I saw her. And as soon as I put her into my hand, couldn't put her down, and she had just immediately connected to me with the name Isa. Isa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she was expensive, so I wanted to put her down,
I understand.
but I literally couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it started. And she was with me for many years before the transmission process began, 4 or 5 years before the transmission process began. So we were just synchronizing, and she was just in the space, always with me. Even during the period, there was a period of 4 years when I went out on the land. We won't go into that, but she was with me even then.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everybody and everything else was in storage. But
I want to, what's coming up for me in listening to you speak of this is I also have a not what you would call a typical crystal that we um, assign meaning to, or the visuals of what we expect when we are going to look at a crystal.
Mm.
Um, a an ordinary river rock found its way to me and reached out to me in an extraordinarily magnetic way.
Mm.
And I feel that is what you're also saying when you say you can't put it down. It was this whoomp, and I had to pick up the river rock and hold it and begin to recognize that this was for me and it was a gift, and it is where all of the transmissions have come from. I mean, in alignment with it is how the transmissions come through me. In fact, I have it covered right now, but it has been with me since 2005.
Ah.
And I hold it during sessions and groups and transmissions. And so I've never needed to have somebody explain it to me. You know, my path has not been one of a new age path. It's been my blazing my own trail, and that's what I perceive in you as well. Um, and that's why one of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk with you, because I'm not interested in data from the past and how it's been come together and how um, it's been helpful. I'm not saying it's bad. It's been helpful to get to this point
Mm.
where we access directly
Mm.
the data that we need. So I just wanted to toss that in, that we both share that discovery or friendship with a helper, a helper that we can hold, touch, and feel
Mm.
in
Do you
our
feel
reality.
do you feel any association in particular with having found the stone in the river, a river stone?
It wasn't anywhere near a river.
Okay, but it was a river stone. It was a stone that was formed by
Yes.
the flowing of rivers. Yes. Do you find any association with the water element in particular as being more associated with you than perhaps other elements?
I would say that I have had my dance in awareness of all the elements, and my relation to it as I come into my integration in form.
Mhm.
Um, but water, most definitely, or the earth, the soil, the stones, very, very powerful for me.
Mhm. Energy, emotions. Is there anything stronger in that body for you than the others? Or has there been in the past? Or do
Well,
you?
fire has definitely been pronounced in my travels, in my walk, the sacred Mayan fire path in Guatemala.
Mhm.
Um, and air in the breath. I mean, it's all there. I don't find that I'm like, oh, well, this is the winner, the earth or fire or water, air. It's all coming together in ether, right? They're all blending into the ether, and that's
Mhm.
where we're blossoming here in how they all join together and introduce the ether
Mhm.
that we're accessing now.
Tend to be more mental myself. I can be highly mental and a visual and a visionary. And so stones
Yeah,
that, have more of that element, of course,
I
I
see.
feel a very strong draw to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I want to comment on that. The bits that I watched of your video, that one video I commented on. Um, and I just want to tell you that I just think you're extraordinarily gifted in articulating. in the ways that people, they need the articulation, the ability to translate to the mental is extraordinary to me, because I'm more musical and poet, and not that you aren't. I'm just saying that I swim, right? I
In
swim
the
in that.
abstract. Yes,
Yeah,
no, I understand.
yeah. I'm sure
Like
you do.
like you say, we all have them all. It's just that one may
Yeah,
be, a certain strength,
yeah,
and yeah, the mental body is without doubt my strength, and it's where I find, all of my body of experience, from deep meditative states to the altered states of consciousness, the out of body experience, the conscious shift from physical space, you know, into wider
right.
dimensions, not just the landing there, but, being able to hold that cognition through the shift
Hmm.
and to cognize in its entirety the shift itself,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
the strong mental field. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to give you that reflection back to you, that it's I can sit back and admire it, just like, wow. I wish that I could articulate that way, these, to cognize these states of awareness, and the continuing acceleration and progression through it. It's always expanding, it's always changing.
hmm
Um, and so I want to get to that. I'm feeling a call to kind of like, let's, take each other's hand right now, and go back to our childhood, and let's find some possible common ground here, and unique differences, right, of your life, and how this happened for you. Because what I'm fascinated and drawn to with you is, wow, I don't come across too many people where I can go, she is talking about the same things that I'm here to talk about, and I'm here to um, introduce, at the very least, to this reality, in my ways. And I know I'm told there are lots of us, but I don't meet too many, I have to say. I have met a handful, but so this is the fun that I get to have now, is to just explore with you, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about our childhood. I did hear some of yours on another video. um, and you mentioned in our messaging that you didn't really talk um, much until later in life, or I can't remember. Was it teenage years, or
Much
did
later,
you much later? Okay.
my
Um,
40s.
yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. I experienced a lot of trauma from what I did say, what I did articulate in my childhood, which slammed me back down, and I had to, deal. That was part of my journey, is dealing with the trauma of that. And
Yes.
um, but it was perfect. It's always perfect, for each of our paths.
I don't have a
So,
strong emotional body, so I wasn't able to do it. That's probably my weak area. High mental
right.
predominance, weak emotional.
Hmm. So we're like flipped. We're the opposite, sort of, in that way.
hmm
Hmm.
So yeah, those with a very strong emotional body can come out and begin speaking to the others at a very young age, so that others can get that contrast, that differential between that energy and their own, and begin making the shift. But I had to do it in more mental fashions, and
I
so
see.
going out into the middle of the desert by myself and just sitting and doing what other people would call nothing, but to me was life.
Yeah.
And, really, really adhering to that with all of my might for most of my life before I began speaking. So the trauma that you mentioned, I also had to go through. However, I had to go through it as an adult seeming or very much, exemplifying somebody who had never spoken to other people before.
Right.
So an adult idiot, basically. So yeah, that was challenging, but I had
Yeah.
the mental body to handle it. At that point, everything was my anchoring within my own self, was stable enough to withstand all that. But it was a decade. And I did that on forum boards on my yoga teacher, is a world-known yoga teacher, Eric Schiffman, and he's who I moved to the Santa Monica area to study with in more detail. And he had a forum message board, and I helped moderate it, and did a lot of speaking there. And that's how I learned to begin speaking with others. And that's where I learned that what I had going on inside myself as life was very different from other people.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't know it at that point.
Right. That's kind of shocking in and of itself, isn't it? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I feel that perhaps I was involved in noticing that early on in my life, because I was saying things out loud, and shocking everybody around me. Um, and then being told to hush and what's wrong with you, kind of, and then internalizing that, oh my God, what's wrong with me, and starting to question everything about my existence, and at a young age. And so it's been quite the journey, as I hear coming from you. It's quite a journey to come from the awareness as a child. And I'd like to introduce the sense of others visiting, that people call ETs. This was a prominent piece in memory in my life of the interactions and the communion. Basically, it was natural at that stage. It was completely, yeah, this is how you do it, this is life, right? And then you're looking at your family going, but wait, there's a huge contrast here. What's going on? Which is right and which is wrong? Or what am I supposed to do, essentially?
Mm.
So talk about, if you would, I'd love to hear about when ET or otherly beings interacted with you and interact with you.
Yeah, it started like with everybody off the get-go, because we're not closed off to the extra dimensions,
Right.
till roughly age 7 for most people. So when I was younger, it of course was all still there, and I was living what I take now as a much older me as a lifetime. Then I was there in that world, in that life, in that body, the same as I was here in this life, in this body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sense of being in more than one place at one time, that sense that reality isn't just earth life reality. But as a child, of course, I couldn't pattern that out into meaning. I couldn't even tell that what I was experiencing was what other people were experiencing. I didn't have the cognition. So yeah, the cognition did not kick in. My awakening in this body's 44th year was an awakening of my cognitive faculties.
Mm-hmm.
I like to put it that way, because
Mm-hmm.
things would happen and I just didn't cognize them. It's sort of like the fact that you're breathing right now, but most people, as they breathe, they're not actually taking the time to cognize the fact that they are. They just are, and it's just a normal, ever-present, invisible reality within everything else that's going on. And that's how my experiences were. But in this lifetime, in this world, there was 3 main types of beings that were there. What came through very pronouncedly was that they were 3 distinct heights, one very thin and tall, and one mid height, and one much shorter. And so this all might sound very familiar to those who are familiar with stories such as those of the Greys. But I was of the mid-height group, and we lived out in nature. We lived inside the trees. And we were on the outskirts of society. We were out there. We weren't in what I'll call cities. And we were always being hunted. Like the entire lifetime was those who held power hunting us, literally. And so the entire lifetime was one of evasion. And
Mm.
this leads to but a beautiful, nice life. Aside from that
Mhm.
fact, a
Mhm.
beautiful lifetime,
Mhm.
like the one I have here. It's just been peaceful and calm and leisurely. And I don't know how, but everything I seem to want or need somehow just is always able to be had, even though I don't have much of anything. What I want or what I feel I
Yeah.
need is always there. And
Yes.
so very, very simple life. But this manifested in the dream states later after this, through the ages of, say, 9 and 40, even now. Actually,
Mhm.
I can still be taken into that. But this is one in which I'm being chased. Okay, so just like that life, I'm being hunted.
Mhm.
And the lifetime was one of evasion. In this dream, the just the sense is to run and to get away, and to get away fast.
Mhm.
But my feet are feeling as though they're magnetically sealed to the ground, and it's
I relate to that.
getting harder to pick up one foot and get it in front of the other. And I'm using extreme force to get this on. I mean, the imperative in me to get away is enormous. And so as soon as I can't, the fear and the imperative that's telling me to get away will cause me to create a body of water. And this can be any body of water. The last one I remember doing was just a puddle in the middle of the street.
Mhm.
And I'll dive into it. And so I dive into the water and I go way down deep. I'll turn myself upward toward the surface where I can see shadowy figures up there shooting down at me, and I'll see these bullets
Mhm.
coming at me, and I'll just evade them in the water a time or two, and then I'll get hit. And so this is my classic abduction scenario. These were,
Mm.
abductions.
Mhm.
And then find myself on the proverbial table. But the cognition of the event from that point on didn't come until much later. So when I would wake up from these experiences as a child, I would mandate myself to forget.
Mhm.
I did
Mhm.
not let myself remember them any further than I'm being chased. I'm trying to get away. I can't get my feet to lift up off of the ground. I create the
Mhm.
body of water. That's all I would let myself remember.
I see. Mhm.
The rest was a mandate to forget. That,
Yeah, it's interesting popping in and out of these, time frames, and recalling
mm,
and articulating them, because more and more everything is absolutely happening all at once. And just like you were saying, it happened in childhood, I also relate to everything's just happening all at once. So to listen to you talk about these things, I can jump into, what the general consensus would, how they would see you or see me, and I can hear the judgments that they would make, or that not even be able to understand it,
mm,
and that we sound new age when we speak of these things, but really, um, it's all we have when it comes to words. But I think you and I both realize it's more symbolic um, and metaphorical. It's like we have to find ways to describe these interactions
for me,
that
they have always been reality. That's for me. It's just
I
reality.
I get it, but then
Have always
trying to
been.
articulate it.
I have no idea what people mean when they say New Age, and I still don't know what they mean.
Okay.
I ask anytime somebody tells me that, and I'm like,
Sure.
I don't know what you mean by that. Clearly
Yeah.
it means something good. And clearly they're making a judgment.
It's I feel like, of course, the New Age was huge. The New Age religion, so to speak, was huge in the 80s, and the 70s, 80s, 90s, even. Um, Big explosion of material. I feel data to gravitate to when you reject something else. Like, I reject organized religion. New Age is so much more exciting and fun, and all the characters and stories and all.
Yeah.
And there was a sense of ungroundedness around it. um,
Ah.
Ungrounded, right? So you're just regurgitating, just like an organized religion, regurgitating the storylines and the characters and the angels and the ETs and the this and the that.
So
But
they're meaning that you're talking about something that you're not, they're thinking that you're talking about something that you're not actually experiencing. And that's what they mean by
yes,
New Age.
yeah.
Oh, that's the first time that's ever made any
I'm
sense.
glad I could help you with that.
I want to get clear on what they mean, but they're not even able to tell me. I mean,
Yes.
most times I'm like, what do you mean by that? I don't know, and I don't know why you're putting me in that pocket.
Yeah.
If you can
Yeah.
tell me, I can, help us work through this. Yeah, that's okay. So that's understandable. I've never seen that before, because I always think it's so clear that I'm speaking of something that I'm actually experiencing. But other
Yeah.
people that don't have the experience, they can't know that in the same way that I do. And so yes, they would have
Yeah.
thoughts about that.
Bingo. You have to, unless we have a direct experience, and the direct experience doesn't have to look like yours or mine, or it's just your own direct experience that is purely neutral. And then good luck. You get to clothe it. You get to then come up with the, okay, here's what happened. And then we'll be sitting there going, yay, no, that doesn't sound New Age to me, because I know I resonate with what you're
Mhm.
saying, right?
Mm-hmm. And I get you there on that point too. We do create all of this. When this is the most phenomenal thing about being able to retain conscious awareness and cognitive faculties of my person, my earthly person, in the midst of
Yes.
the shift into additional frequencies, is that I get to see how they're created, and how what I'm experiencing is created through my very own
Right.
response, my very own thoughts to what's happening in that shift.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's extraordinary. Now, this does not mean it is not reality. Anything we experience first hand in first person, as we are here in our experience in this body, is an experience. And
Mhm.
so that's reality for you. And even this reality, I would say, is occurring in that same fashion. Anything visual is virtual. We create the visuals, we create the virtual realities, the
Right.
visible spectrum of everything that seems to be happening,
Right.
even here. And it's important to put that through. One of the reasons people aren't able to make that conscious shift from here to elsewhere is they're not able to create that level playing field.
Yes.
Everything is reality. All the waves are reality.
Mhm.
Delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, everything happening in those waves is
Mhm.
reality, just as much as what's happening here in the beta wave is reality.
Mhm.
And all of reality, all of what we like to call reality, visual reality, is a dream. So now we have
Yes.
or created, self created, even here. All of the
Mhm.
waves are created in that same fashion. And but this view allows a level playing field that easily lets you shift through the frequencies. But
Mhm.
until we can make that level playing field, then there's, one of the fields is here and one's here, and we just keep missing the other one.
Mhm.
We got to
Mhm.
get that level playing field to be able to shift from one into the other.
Mhm.
So if we have a preference, oh no, only Earth life is reality. Everything else is, made up.
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
this isn't made up. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So as long as there's that judgment, that's exactly what everyone who's holding that thought is going to experience. For what we think we experience, that's all experience is. It's our very own thoughts and feelings on something. The vibrations and frequencies go out and create a visual field that reflects that back to us. It's extraordinary.
That's what I was recently locked. I was recently that clicked inside of me of, and that's what judge not lest ye be judged means, what you just described.
Mm.
So when we make a judgment, it kind of locks us into that, okay, this is real, this is, what you're doing is wrong or that's bad. You're setting yourself up to lock into that limited spectrum.
What you think you experience. It's all one, it's all at once. There's not a separation between
Yeah,
what you're thinking and what reality is. It's all
yeah,
one, it's all at once. Hmm.
yeah,
Because of who we are. And it's important to say this now here too, because of who we are.
yeah, yeah,
And that
yeah.
would be a large jump from where we are to mention that. And so I'll just let it hover there in the ethers until we get back to it.
Okay. So, oh, there's mowing going on outside. Can you hear that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Um, so the one thing that I do want to make sure we get to, I wanted to tap into childhood, um, because I like exploring, the similarities and the differences of our paths here when we find each other at this time, at this crossroads in time. Um, it's not that it's everybody needs to know about our entire journey or lives, or this is for me and great, my own great joy of meeting eye to eye
Mhm.
in this reality.
The
And
critical data is fun.
yeah, it is. It
Because
is.
the symbols can be contrasted so easily. So, like, where were you raised? Was it a beach area, mountainous area, desert area? Where were you raised?
There's a few different places, but desert was most of it.
I was raised in the desert, Las Vegas desert.
Yeah.
Hmm. Which is
And I was in from age 10 to 20, early 20s, in the Mojave Desert, so not far from where you were.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Love the Mojave. Uh-huh.
Oh, me too.
Um,
Magical.
so the whole expanse from the Nevadas through Arizona and New Mexico, I am highly tuned to. That big circle
Oh,
right there, just boom. That's me.
same,
That's my
same here.
people.
Same here.
Yeah,
That I lived in mostly Santa Fe in New Mexico for 16 years, but also Taos and Albuquerque.
that's where my group wants me to go for the last 7 years.
Albuquerque?
For the last 7 years, they've been trying to get me to the top of New Mexico, more Santa Fe.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
okay. And all right, very interesting. So that's a touchstone there. That's something to to come back to and visit.
Mhm.
Um,
Your family unit, um, can you describe them? I was raised by my father in a house full of boys and I had one other sister as well.
Raised with father and mother, and two older brothers. My parents divorced when I was 15, which was it was very earth shattering for me. That was a time, that's like our first Saturn return, right?
What year?
I also lived for a few years in Wisconsin in the Midwest, and because that was where my father's family was, and also in Sacramento, where the the memories come from, that area with communion, I would say, where it was natural, and I was just communing with them, and um, that's where the sandbox was that I used to go play in, this giant sandbox that was at our house, and
Mhm.
that's when the meetings would happen. Yeah. Any other questions because these are good questions that to touch upon for both of us.
Yeah, well, I can see the areas and the family structure. Did you have spirituality or religion in your household?
Um, Very unusual situation. My mother and my grandmother were avid Christian scientists. So, do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, in the sense that I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's the ones that don't believe in doctors.
Okay.
Um, and so I write about this in my book too. It was actually, at a later point in my life, I look back and I go, oh my God, how perfect! How perfect was
I
that?
know.
Everything's so perfect, right? For arriving here and now.
So did your family not take you to doctors? Did you not have antibiotics growing up and that kind of a thing?
Mm-mm.
Same here. Now, my father was not religious. He was a scientific mathematic type person
Mm.
and wrote mathematics books, but worked as a judge and attorney. Um, that was going somewhere, but I said it's in such a long-winded fashion that I forgot.
I do that all the
Yeah.
time.
So there was no religion. there was no
Okay.
spiritual book.
Yeah.
My father was very open-minded. He was not a judgmental person. He knew that that's what was actually required of being a judge, that non-judgmental nature and the ability to take in pure raw data, and to pattern that, really
Remarkable.
with
I
the
mean,
law. Yeah,
that's extraordinary,
yeah. And
to be
so
raised by a father like that.
we were able to go to church and synagogue and stuff like that with our friends,
Mm.
and everybody had a different church. And so I would periodically go with my different friends that,
Hmm.
had different types of services. So I have sort of that eclectic, not that I have any idea what was happening in those rooms or understood anything that was being said.
Yeah.
I would sort of do what I did when I was in school and the teacher was reading a story. I would pixelate the vision field and go somewhere else,
Yes. Hmm.
usually into that story, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and if it was a story I liked, that was childlike, I could even shift back into physical space, knowing where I just was. But when I would
Hmm.
do it in the midst of a situation like that, when, say, at church, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily come back with what I was just doing, because it was probably more grown up than, a young mind can handle.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so completely free, very, very male, very natural. Dad was highly centric in the physical world and didn't have anything against doctors, but had the mindset that if you eat well and you exercise, then there's probably never going to be a reason to see them. And and so
Makes perfect sense to
I
me.
wasn't raised going to doctors either. And my father was intelligent enough to know that antibiotics were something that you took, only when something was extraordinarily incorrect. Not when you had a cold or a flu or, for everything under the sun, like how people take them now. And so, yeah, I've only had them once in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in my 20s in college and got
Yeah.
strep. And I didn't even finish the course. I couldn't. I took them for 3 days. I was so knocked off of my center
Yeah.
from them that I stopped, and do not stop taking until done. I was just like, no, I'm done.
I'm done.
Threw them away. That
Yeah.
was the only time I've ever had them that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any
Well,
other.
I did have to have medicines, later, like in my 20s and later in life. Absolutely. Um, but not a lot. Just anyway, so it was a constant battle between my mother and father because he was not a Christian Scientist. So there were times where arguments were happening over my unconscious body.
Mm.
In the worst case that this happened, um, hitting my head and um, she's got to go to the hospital. No, I'm going to pray this back to a restored, healed place. And
You're bringing up
so,
a memory. one
oh,
time, one time when I had fallen off of a wall, I've always been dizzy, and I've never been able to walk a straight line or walk on a wall. But one time a friend of mine was trying to teach me, and I of course fell off. And as I was falling off the wall, my chin, landed on a boat trailer.
mm-hmm,
No, actually,
mm-hmm.
the boat trailer was lower. First, metal garbage cans back then, right? So it hit the metal
Mm-hmm.
garbage can, then the boat trailer, then the ground, and it
Ooh, ow, ow.
split
Uh-huh.
my chin open from here to here.
Oh my goodness.
And my
Oh,
father's own response to that was to just, sit me down, soap and water it, put a finger up there to see if he could get any gravel out,
oh my,
and send me on my way back out to play.
oh my. Okay. So it sounds like we both have some stories to tell along those lines.
I always hurt my face. It was funny. Every accident I have
Mm,
ever had, and I have had 3 major accidents, have been my head. It's
mm,
been like when I fell off the rings at the sandbox, the grade school down at the end of the street, and I just landed square on my face. And
mhm.
back then the sand in the sandboxes was made out of metal shavings, metal shavings in there, and it just got embedded into my face, and it of course started bleeding. And so I come home this blood ball of a face, and yeah, my father was never shocked at anything ever.
That's probably a good
Takes
thing.
me
Yeah.
upstairs and washes
Yeah.
it all off, and
Yeah. No big deal.
think I still have the scar from this, but I didn't get scarred from that. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
next one was a car accident, head right through the steering wheel, because I experienced myself going through the etheric, and it was my etheric head that went through. But I fully
Mm.
experienced that. Yeah, so 3 major head accidents. Have you ever had any head traumas or?
Just the one when I was a child, when my brother had me stand up in the wagon, and then I don't know what inspired him to yank the wagon at that point, but I fell backwards onto the concrete um, driveway, and that's when I woke up to my mom holding me in their bedroom on the bed and arguing with my dad about
Mhm.
what they were going to do about this situation, because I was unconscious.
So because we were talking about this, this is bringing to mind the ET healings that happened. So,
Yes.
because I wasn't taken to the doctor, it was a very common course for my group to come get me and take me what back then I called the healing place, because I could shift there and
Yep.
shift back from there, and multiple times was taken there to heal. And I feel now as an adult I was taken on board craft and was on the table and was
Hmm.
recorrected and then sent back down. Do you have any experiences of
Oh
anything
yeah,
like that?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
You want to tell us one?
Uh, I would say in the one that comes to just pops in first. Of course, I do have childhood memories of being with them um, and feeling the healing taking place. But the more the more memorable ones where I have a memory of it, and because I was writing journals, keeping journals during that time. I have since 1980 actually kept journals.
Awesome.
Um, but in it was the mid 90s, high activity time. This was leading up to my major Kundalini event. Um, uh, there were times where I would wake up on a table and it would have that distinct, wait, this isn't really a dream. This is real. This is happening. This is extra lucid. um, More real than what we call real, and then just this kind of inner conversation of, yeah, it's we're just working here and we're going to be doing this and that and okay, just like totally understanding it and knowing what was happening on that level, right? And then you come back and wake up and go, whoa, record it in the journal, and okay, well that's something remarkable to keep note of. So yes,
Is there any clear awareness of the beings that you were with? Do you have any visuals?
no, I don't have visuals of. I usually didn't of being on the tables,
Mhm.
even when I had the hybrid child experience. Their faces were always fuzzed out. When I did see them, they were fuzzed out faces, but they were the ones in the sandbox in early childhood, very tall, gorgeous light beings, gold, and sometimes they were bluish color. Um, in I've also the latest healing one, the last one was in 2015, I believe it was, with the praying mantis being that I'm very familiar with. Um, but which one was I going to tell you about next? Oh, yeah, then the kind of the taller, I want to call those fuzzed out faces taller grays. That's what I want to, that's just, but I don't know,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, if I just take it straight from the symbols and from what I come back with, um, they are they are that. Um, but no fear in those interactions.
Amazing.
Um,
You're still young in those experiences, yes?
30s.
Okay, so not so
The
young.
major Kundalini was at age 37. Um, but I was being coached by these beings all along with visits, with waking up in my bed, with the energy coursing through my spine, with my spine arched up off the back, and this, right? And those were just the preparation for the major shift that happened in 98. And this is, you know, if we were only granted time to speak about one thing, this would be the one thing that I would want to explore with you,
Mm,
because I found that none of my experiences, whether they're ET experiences or Kundalini, happened in a way that I can find and access in the narratives in the external world. This is a very unique, these were all very unique experiences that when I would find, I can find resonance with other people's experiences in these areas.
mhm.
Um, but there's no exact, this is what Kundalini is, and this is what happens, and this is, um, I can only relate to the direct experience of it and what was happening in my consciousness and what continues to happen
Yeah.
as a result of this fusion within me.
And it's important that we also bring this up because everyone's experience is so unique. Not one of us pattern our attention in the same exact way. Thank goodness,
Yeah.
because that would make some of us irrelevant, you know.
Yeah.
And so the way that we pattern our awareness in the experience is something that's worth talking about. And now, just to give you an example of why I'm saying this, the way that I pattern my awareness when I'm in the experiences on the table is to go into the elements of it which are still unprocessed. So, those elements that I was so frightened by that stimulated my earth person's central nervous system to the degree that I can't see as clearly, those are what I extend out into. And so when I'm on the table, I'm, for the most part, especially in the beginning, up front in fear, you know, so I'm not understanding what's happening. I'm not understanding how I got here. I'm understanding I'm somewhere other than where my physical body is. My
Mhm.
mind's being blown. Okay. And I'm accessing that data because I want to consciously process that data. And it's
Mhm.
hard data to be aware of and process. Most people don't do that with their cognitive faculties. They may do it with their emotional body and no visuals. They may, you know, I mean, just there's endless ways in which you can process the data in a way that is not so traumatizing for you that you shut it down, or even worse, create fear-based structures that, you know, take you into realities that are horrific, you know, because those get created as well. But that's how I pattern my attention. I want to get after what I haven't been able to get after yet, so I can consciously, cognitively process it. I want to see that data and I want to see it as clear as I possibly can. Yeah. And
Yes.
so it's a matter of taking a central nervous system on fire, as you
Yes.
have experienced yourself,
I have.
and uh, calming that, um,
Yes.
neutralizing that, expanding that, not running away, not fighting, but facing
Absolutely.
what the
Mhm.
experience is. And it's not an easy thing to, it's not an even easy thing to do in physical space. Say you and your husband are fighting, you know, I mean, for the umpteenth time, you know, and he's just wanting to walk away, but you're wanting to do fisticuffs, you know. So we often, if not always, you know, have that initial base, you know, right at the base of our central nervous system response to fight
Yeah.
flight. And these experiences that we're going through are a process of consciously neutralizing to begin that fight flight mechanism. And that's like what I like going into.
An accelerated process, indeed.
Mm.
And this right here, I just want to put a bookmark and a bubble around because I want to unpack all of this in particular. Maybe not today because there's a very loud mowing machine happening. I don't know if you can hear it now. It's very loud to me.
No, we can't hear it over here. Zoom's
Okay.
really good at filtering out background noises. But one thing that you said that I would like to go into before we conclude for
Oh,
today.
I'm not concluding. I
Okay.
just want to I want to put a bookmark there. I also want to say this is important for me to say. And I outline this in my book story, right? Childhood connected, conditioned, forgetful, chasm builds between the one that knew and was connected and was aware and conscious of this connection, forgetful. 1991 major contact event, where they showed me the difference between love and fear frequency wise, and that I could choose. After that point, um, less and less and less and less fear, because I'd go, there was the mechanism within me that would go, oh, 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 I don't have to be fearful. Okay, I choose love, you know. Um, and that sounds cheesy, but it's an actual switch that can happen when we choose
Absolutely.
that.
And I use that switch when I consciously go out from the onset of it. In the beginning, when my central
Yeah,
nervous system was in its schism, and
right,
I did not know what this was, I did not know what this was happening. I knew that it
right,
wasn't going to stop.
right,
At that point, it's it's a different mechanism that's inside us. It doesn't have to do with our physical body structure and its fight flight system. It has to do with our beingness
yeah,
and the answer to everything. So when you don't know what's going on, there's only one answer. There's only one thing to do, and that is to drop into your heart.
hmm,
that's the only thing that you can do. It's the only thing that's there, you
hmm,
know,
hmm,
fundamentally, is the center of our beingness. And so
exactly.
I would drop into that,
Hmm,
but investigating experiences that have details to them, scenario type details. I'm on board
hmm,
a craft, and my body's central nervous system is in a schism.
hmm, hmm,
So processing these details, going in to see what triggered it, to see what it is relative to the scenario that's playing
right,
out,
yeah,
what it's all designed to help
hmm,
do has to
hmm,
do with the conscious shift. And that conscious shift
yep,
has to start with the neutralizing of that fight flight mechanism. If we don't
right.
stop running away or putting up our fists in response to anything that's new, we're never going to graduate. We're never going to make a paradigm shift. We will make graduations within the third grade that we're still
Hmm,
in, but we'll never make that leap to the additional paradigm.
absolutely right. Absolutely. And this is where another, so it's that empowered by curiosity, right? Empowered by our willingness to engage with it.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm here. What's next? What are we doing? And not running. So,
No matter
the
what,
the
I'm not going
flight.
to run. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to face.
Just going to be present with it.
Focus, not fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think it's so important or it's why my being finds it so important to pattern our structure of awareness into that from the perception of its 3D
Yes.
representative,
Yes.
so that it can be processed and hope from that. We're literally enacting the shift, but we're enacting it in so many ways. And my shift isn't a shift from 3D into 4D. It's a wider shift. And
Mm.
so there's more that I have to do. There's more that I have to accomplish. There's more that I want to, because I want to see what happens in all of that. The only reason to want to see what happens in all of that is to uh, build a capacity within you to help others through it.
100%.
It's what my being wants to do more than anything,
Me too.
more
Me
than
too.
anything. And
Driven.
yes, it's an imperative.
Passion.
Yes, the
Yes.
emotional body is a passion. Mental body is an imperative.
I love it. I love it. Oh, this is really awesome. So what curiosity do you have? That those are important things right there that I would love to take another visit with you to unpack, to really zero in on that, because we're
Sure.
kind of covering everything at this point, and so it gets a little diluted with um I mean, it's all fabulous, but
I,
sometimes.
I want to know, relative to the healings, you had made the sentence that you at times experience the healing from 3D space through your emotional and energetic structure here. So I was wondering, what's that like? Like, what are you feeling? What are
Okay, so the perception that I'm here in this form. No,
Mhm.
I would say it's more like an out of body or lucid dream experience.
Oh, okay.
Even, well, the 1991 event wasn't so much about a physical body healing. It was an emotional awareness click shift that happened, that recognizing that I have the power
Mhm.
to make this choice. Um, but that one was probably the most quote 3D real, right? Because I woke up in terror in my bedroom. Like, I would say an expletive right now, like, oh, like, what? Just like something is going to kill me right now,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I will be annihilated. And so then your mind comes up with, there's a guy with a gun in my bedroom, right? He's going to point it to my head and I'm dead, right? So it's like the worst thing you can imagine.
And I've had that. No, no, I've experienced it in this fashion. Yes.
Okay. And so none of it really makes sense because there's no one actually in the room, but what's happening? Um,
Good. Go
and
into that. Go into that. I want to see you go into that and
okay.
process that like live in real time. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
fascinating too. But
Well,
since
I've talked about this a lot. I mean, when I do talk about these things and in the book, I go into more detail.
yeah,
I even made when I was working on a solo performance of my life and contact and the evolution of it. I did a written story version performance piece of that.
yeah.
Love that stuff. Love being creative, with this sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, same here, same here. I'm still hooked on that idea though. So maybe this will trigger something. Sometimes they are working on me when I'm right here in physical space. And I do feel the work when this is happening. And one of the ways
Yes.
I'll feel it is the brain tingles. And another way that I'll feel it is when I feel this suction cup sensation behind the chakra at the back of the head, back of the neck, and back of the heart. And it's just heavenly. The other time I'm feeling what I call the champagne bubbles, through my whole body, and
Yeah.
things like this. So you've experienced it from
Yeah.
this perception as well. I know because
Oh,
it's
for sure.
Kundalini awakening. Is
Yeah.
there any other unique way that you have ever felt the work? Anything that stands out to you?
In the lucid or out of body format,
No, in the format right here in physical space.
uh, um, the the warming of this happens in a lot of cases, but um, I get energy in my right palm that is, I would say it's like the champagne bubbles. It's my heart, and it's like I call it, oh, the presence is here, and it's merging with me, and I'll either get here's something I need to know or be aware of, or it's just a nurturing healing event where I am shifted, I'm changed, I'm healed, and onward. So it's like a little pit stop um,
Is there a way?
event.
Is there a way in particular that the energies that have come in to heal with you want to move through you to heal with others?
Oh yeah.
Like in my case, it's they call me they refer to me as a communications specialist, which really
Yeah, I can relate to that.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's more counseling duties, something along this line. Although there's a gift for word and writing, and it's developing into more, but it's in a communications type way. Whereas other people are more
Yeah.
hands-on healing and working with energies. How is it?
It's both for me. It's the gifts that really came, it's not like they were not there at all before, but after the Kundalini major event, what comes online more is the ability to just simply hear someone's voice and start to get data. about, their other aspects of self wanting to come online.
Mm-hmm.
So I essentially let, if people do a session with me, um, I am, I'll connect ahead of time, and I'll say to my group, I never know what to call
Mm-hmm. Group is good.
them, my network with the field, or however you want to say it,
Mm-hmm.
um,
All of that is
is
good.
I will say, this person, blah, blah, blah. And I may not know them. I don't know them at all. I just know they live in, Texas or
Mm-hmm.
Florida. And I'll say, this person is asking for guidance. They'd like to know, um, what they need to know at this time to move into, more of themselves and to initiate this, conscious, um, way of being, in that they can be at this time. Yada yada. I just talk out loud, and then pretty soon, as I talk, the energy starts to come in, the presence, and then I'll get the movies here
Mm-hmm.
and the feelings, and then it comes in kind of a shamanic way, like, um, all right, I'm seeing the sun, and I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing the person, and so then I feel the meaning of it, and then further articulate it when I'm face to face with the client, because usually they will bring something up that triggers, oh, this is what they showed me, and then I'll share that, and then that starts to help an unraveling, further, and hopefully an integration.
So spirit messages.
Oh,
Spirit
yeah.
messages is the okay. So yeah,
I've
that's
also brought through hundreds of messages, transmissions that since the Kundalini event, I have been.
the way the healing happens through each individual is so fascinating. I
Yeah.
have a very close friend, and her gift is with prayer. So she
Yeah.
works with blessings, and she does
Yes.
this an identical process as to what I do with the mental field and thought. So, like, say I'm walking down the street and there's a billboard flashing at everybody, and it's a program. As soon as I see them, instantaneously through my own system, I'm restructure, dismantle, restructure, sovereignty program. I do it all, and it
Ah,
neutralizes that billboard's effect on anybody else in the area.
fascinating.
Or I'm hearing the news and those, sentence shoots out,
Yeah.
dismantle
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the program. And it actually happens through my system. And she does a very similar thing with blessings, with prayer.
Ah,
But
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And so, but yours is more with spirit messages. So you're
It's it's aspects of me, talking through me. It's not like I've never felt it as other, like, this is the angel named George or whatever. It's me. It's my group, connection,
Mhm.
and I'm vibrating. I talk myself into. Uh, and that's one of the funny things they said early on was, you talked yourself out of this connection, you can talk yourself back into it. So it's literally, you talk about a communication special, it's literally talking, talking, talking all the time. I attune to my body, I attune to them. And then when the client comes in, or the group that I work with, then it's when they talk, it's like it's all songs to me, because I'm also a musician and a songwriter. And
Here it comes. Here it comes.
what?
Well, in that you're
So,
working more directly with sound. I'm
oh,
referring to
absolutely.
at first
Sound.
as spirit messages,
Yeah.
but this is it's the same
Sound.
thing. Yeah. Uh-huh. But yeah, your distinctions are coming through now. It's musical. It's yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yes.
It's all a song to me.
Yes, it's
And
frequency. You're working
oh, yeah.
with frequencies, and you're, letting those frequencies through to other people. Whereas on my part, I'm just dismantling and restructuring
I love it.
what could adversely affect. And my friend is actually blessing the whole thing immediately for detecting the negative presence.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's just beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yes, yes,
beautiful.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Mhm. Another reason why it's so fascinating to meet, because we can interpenetrate each other's skill sets. So
Yes.
this is a capacity I discovered that I have for merging with other people's cleared neural networks.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, in fact, that's what triggered my skill with the crystal. There's an ET artist named Kasara. Her name is Christine Dennett. She's related to Preston Dennett. And she has this artistic ability to vision and move into deep meditative states and shift frequencies, and see
Hmm.
what's going on. But she's an artist, and she sketches
Hmm.
and paints and renders the ETs. And it was me
Hmm.
coming across her
Hmm.
and me seeing what she was doing that activated my skill within myself with the crystal, because at that point I saw, how having a skill to make things more visual for people, um, being able to see the paintings that she painted, see the beings, how
Hmm.
much that would enhance my relaying to other people, about the conscious shift and out of body states, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that night I went inside myself, and it just happens naturally. Like, I didn't do it. It happens. I do it, from within myself, but like, I wasn't, as my earth person, conscious of the fact that, okay, I'm going to lay down and do this. It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's that desire in me from having seen what she does, that when I laid
Yes.
down, yeah, I just went inside myself. I merged with her neural networking and her cleared neural pathways that allowed those transmissions, that ability to render them here.
Hmm.
And in this experience, I'm just in a spatial expanse, and ET after ET after ET just comes up through the center, stands in front of me, and rotates slowly so I can get a really good look at them. And this is occurring along the backdrop of the star system that they're from. And this just goes on all night long.
Wow.
And when I shifted back into physical space in the morning,
Hmm.
I had this ability. It was shortly after that, the things started happening with the crystal. And I'm like, because we have no artistic ability whatsoever, none, zero, zip.
Right. Neither do I. I mean, I can't
Draw
draw. I can't draw. I can't draw at all.
or I
But I
have
can
music.
write music and do, video and film and digital work. And, it's like all having to do with sound, but I cannot draw. So that's extraordinary.
Well, multi levels deep, my being works with crystals.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
inside of a crystal is the kaleidoscope, literally the dimensions. I mean, a crystal
Hmm.
is a visual
Right.
representation of the dimensional existence,
Right.
all in every frequency.
Right.
Well, they're like, okay, well, we'll do communications in this visual fashion, through the use of the kaleidoscopic function
Yeah.
of the crystal, and boom.
There you go.
We have this remarkable skill. I'll call it remarkable still, because it's remarkable to me. I mean, I still can't believe that it's happening.
Hmm. I feel that way about what I'm involved in too. I'm always, whoa, wow, oh, it's always it continues to be revelatory. It's a moving, dynamic, living process.
Mind bending. It's just mind bending. I mean, I
Yeah.
still can't. They want me to process how it's happening, and I'll be having conversation, but I don't know how it's happening, and they're wanting me to tell people how it's happening, but I don't know how it's happening. They're like, what do you know?
Right.
And so we started here, and I have started the process of looking in to more detail on the communications function of
Hmm.
crystal itself.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we're gonna spend some time doing this. It's all of this stuff that we're giving to do just keeps us occupied while we're here. I mean, just the standard curriculum is enough to bore you literally to death.
Yeah. Yeah. It's but now more than ever, I'm like, oh, this is why I went through all that. Okay. I'm really starting to see that that I was in, training, if you will, my whole life to be here now. As we were touching on earlier, it's like,
And
um, this
repeatedly.
is this is what we do,
And
right?
repeatedly through the timeline. This brings up another fascinating subject, another fascinating thing I discovered, that I was visiting myself from future points in time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I'm still unpacking this one, and it's so funny too, because these experiences happen, but we cognize them so far apart that by the time it happens over
Yeah.
here, we've forgotten that it happened over here, and you know.
I'm pretty sure this is why I was always strongly guided to document everything,
Oh, bless you. Document, document,
because
document, log, log,
because it's
log.
not it's not to maintain a linear story. It's to go, oh yeah, this resonates with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It
it's to
it's
open it up
it,
into actually seeing it.
seeing the whole thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are moments where I go, oh, okay, thank you for. I never understood, like I heard you say this earlier. I'm just doing it. A lot of things I'm just doing and being. And then someone will ask me, why do you do that? You stop and go,
Like, do what?
do what? Oh, you write everything down,
Mm,
um, record everything. It's like I've even I've documented how I was taught how to make this connection consciously and to stream through the messages. And all the messages, they started in around 2004, 2005. And they are about, okay, you're coming into it, you're going to, and consciously, and here's how you adjust to the frequencies, and here's what's possible. And I mean, just really pragmatic stuff to be prepared for this opportunity at this time.
mhm,
And I didn't understand it fully when I was bringing them through and filing them away and not sharing them with anyone. But
mm-mm,
you know what? They might have come in 2005, but they're about right now. They're not date oriented. They are about the movement of humanity into this prime space of
mhm,
potentiality
mhm.
and the choices that we can make if we choose to face it and come online and not run from it, right? So the whole
Oh,
ET stuff
face.
it was training for this.
Yes. And because I'm working so much with cognition, one of the things that I can see relative to writing something down, in physical space, whether that's painting or writing or music,
Right.
whatever format it comes through in. Um, one of the reasons to do that is because we can't fully ground these energies. They don't fully get grounded simply by coming into ourselves and ourselves experiencing them. Again, I also was experiencing this from the get-go, but guess what? I wasn't cognizing the fact that I was. And so
Yes.
what it takes to cognize is that writing of it down and seeing enough experiences and a pattern that lets you
Yes.
see, oh wow, this has been happening, and then
Yeah.
okay, and then gather the data that are in those experiences to see, oh my
Mhm.
God, I've been having ET contact. That's what this is.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
you begin to cognize
Yeah.
what's happening. And yet,
Exactly.
often what's required is you actually seeing it in front of your face in physical space
Yes.
in the format in which it's,
Yes.
specifically coming through you.
Yes. Well
And,
said.
and then that,
Yeah.
of course, helps all of the others as well, who are moving
Yeah.
through the same or similar process.
Yes. Okay. So here's another thing that I'm dying to ask you. The 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 being invisible here, being like we enter into social media spaces, right? Um, and do you find, maybe this is just me, I find that what I share is so not connected to any existing narrative, or it's just judged as immediately as new age, as we were talking about earlier. So it's dismissed. But I am dismissed because I don't think the thinking minds know what to do with me. Like they don't know how to categorize what I'm sharing
Mm-hmm.
confidently, and with passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, has that manifested in your life? What might that look like? And how you
Yeah.
reach to human beings?
My life is one of constant dismissal. And one of the reasons I can see now is that what's happening with me is so far outside the realm of what others cognize happening with themselves that they simply don't
Right.
know what to say. But another reason is because of my own ignorance that what is happening with me isn't happening with most other people, causes when something comes through me to be seen by them as, on my part, a sense of superiority. So it's how they see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So where I'm just saying something I think is common knowledge, what they're
Yes.
experiencing on their part, because it isn't common knowledge.
Hmm.
But they didn't know that,
Hmm. Hmm.
as them thinking I'm superior. Yeah. And so it's sort of a combination of those that work into sort of a cognitive dissonance that others may feel with me.
Hmm. I'm glad I asked this question. Yeah.
Oh, good,
That's,
good. Yeah, I can
yeah.
see that. I can see that now. And seeing that helps me. I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing I could do about it before because I couldn't see the differentials. I didn't understand anything different was happening over there.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, yeah, yeah. Now I can experience the differential. One of the things that helped me experience the differentials was the conscious shift out of body. Because that literally is a differential in the shift from the frequency of the 3D Earth life into whatever frequency it is that you're going into there. And so because I was able to hold that awareness of literally the shift itself,
Hmm.
not the vision fields, the shift itself, the shift of
Yes.
frequencies and what it is, you know, and it is a differential. Yeah, and
Hmm. Hmm.
that differential has always fascinated me, but it helps me see those and feel those and understand those now in physical space, where before I simply did not have that capacity. It wasn't turned on.
I have come to recognize how the underdeveloped emotional intelligence, which is linked to trauma within an individual, is uh, where some of the strong reactions and or projection comes from. I have a tendency to um, people project on me very quickly. I'm either the demon mother they've always hated, or I'm elevated into this, angel being, right? And both make me uncomfortable because I'm I I want to meet people with their um, if people are just willing to engage with their own conscious evolving and healing and transforming, um, we're golden, right? That's all that's really needed. Just like the ETs did with me, right? So they always said to me, "You're going to be like us in human form, to where you can do this work now that we did with you.
Mhm.
So pass on what you learned through this process of overcoming fear and being present and engaged, and know the power of that, because you will get evidence of that immediately if you take charge and say, uh, okay, no, I'm going to be conscious now. I'm not going to flip out with fear, or I'm not going to judge or hate, or whatever the reactions may be to this stronger field, right?
Yeah.
This is and I don't know if you can relate to what I'm saying about, this, we're kind of an extension into this real as this human being, right? Connecting consciously with these other aspects of our selves,
Yes, we
right?
are in effect actualizing the shift. And the shift from the inside out is a greater portion of what we might call our soul or soul group coming into our physicality, into our physical
Mm-hmm.
experience and physical body system. In the
Yes.
process of this, these are being restructured and rewired, to be able to tolerate higher frequency flows. And from the outside in, is a process of us literally getting to go, our earth person getting to go out into these other frequencies, these additional frequencies. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's working co-simultaneously both ways. As more from the in comes out here into physical space, the more of ourself that is out here goes in. And
Yeah.
the degree that we allow the inner to come out into physical space dictates how far out we're able to go the other direction.
Yeah.
So it literally forms a geometry. And this is another interesting
Mm.
thing that I can see because I'm a visionary, and
Mm-hmm.
I work with visuals, as you know, like through the kaleidoscope
Mm-hmm.
crystal. It
Mm-hmm.
forms literally uh, a V shape interpenetrating, or two cones interpenetrating. And when two conical shapes interpenetrate, you get that diamond shape in the middle. And it's
Mm.
that diamond shape in the middle that is that space of differential.
I have lots of sketches of exactly what you're talking
Oh my
about in
God.
my journals.
It's the
Yeah.
void. Yeah, it's the 0
Mm-hmm.
point. And so in that 0 point, we can,
Mm-hmm.
be in many places all at once. We can take in um, uh, data from multiple fields all at the same time.
Yes.
And it's also how we move into the dream state from the conscious state of awareness, that beta brain wave, and toward the thetas where, and deltas where the deep dream stuff is happening. We sit ourselves, that those conical shapes, those interpenetrating conical shapes occur right at the center of our head. And if you just, that's why the yogis put their attention here, because you're literally, by doing that, moving yourself into that interpenetrating space. And that's where the other fields open out to us. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it works in so
Well,
many ways. It's very
interesting that, yeah, that you can explain it. To me, it just happens, and I don't know how to explain. I just know that what they taught me on how to generate the resonance that makes that connection
yes.
happen.
And then they showed me how the crystal works in this way. And it works with that same approximate visual, but multiple dimensions deep. So imagine 4 or 5 conical shapes going this way, all within
Mm-hmm.
each other, like concentric
Mm.
circles, but concentric
Mm-hmm.
conical shapes. And the others working in this way. And so
Mm-hmm.
you get multiple diamonds, all
Mm-hmm.
all within themselves, all concentrically within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. And, that was one of the first
Yeah.
things they showed me of what we're doing to get the signals from elsewhere to come through to here.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
requires a capacity for what I call synchronous states, a capacity
Yeah.
for being in multiple fields simultaneously.
Yeah. When you were talking, I was getting the I love all that imagery, and I'm very visual too. So those are really helpful. Um, but I was feeling this feeling. I kind of chuckle a lot lately when I realize the people might view someone like me or you as like, whoa, they are way out there. Whoa, okay, way out there. From my perspective, that we are barely kindergarten, like, oh, just coming into it going, oh, okay, and
Really
we have
good. Incredibly.
so much more to go, right? I mean, so it like an infinite landscapes here, right? And we're just popping up out of this thing and going,
just the baby stages of
Whoa,
cognition.
yes,
Just the
yeah,
baby stages of cognition where you're getting this one little tidbit.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
And
But
haven't even
then,
put the tidbits together yet. Just the tidbits are so mind blowing that putting them together isn't even fathomable yet. Yeah, you know.
yeah,
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 where it's just beginning to be fathomable.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I
But
understand.
it just makes me chuckle because I'm so, to a lot of people, I'm so out there and so unrelatable, right? Like, what is she talking about? Um, or even my songs, or my poetry.
Mm.
To me, it's like, it just comes through me. It's just whew, and it's like, oh my God, I could not have said that better. If I were, trying to think something up, it just flows through. And then quite often I would find, like, especially when all the music came after the Kundalini event, just tons of music. And um and then finding out later, uh oh, people don't know what I'm talking about.
You see, because you see, you just think that
Yeah,
it's so simple that it's happening with
yeah,
everyone. There's not that
yeah,
cognition that it's not. And so yeah, let the cognition that it's not happening with most other people really sink into you, and you will be able to, or you will begin patterning your attention in ways. You do this when you're sitting with the people. I can already see this as I'm saying it, but you're going to start patterning your awareness in ways that actually do make the connection with those that you're still not making the connection with. And so you just have to grow the current skill, as I have to grow mine, and we all have to grow.
for sure. Yeah, that was,
Oh,
the music started coming, and that's when I moved to Santa Fe. That's when I had the dreams.
yeah.
That was 2000 that I landed in Santa Fe, and I was so excited to share the music because it all came from this transformative, event, and so here I am singing in bars, my awakening music, right? And so the contrast was always there. So yeah, this has been progressing, for many years now.
Here's another connection.
Yeah.
In those bars, I was the cocktail server.
Ah,
Yeah,
interesting.
something I've
Yeah.
done. There was a Las Vegas
Well,
bar.
I spent a lot of time in bars as the rock and roll singer chick, in Southern California long before the major Kundalini event, leading up to that.
Which would be a fabulous talk to have, perhaps also as well after this one, diving in specifically and maybe in greater depth with the Kundalini experience.
For sure. And what was the other thing that I pointed out?
We'll go back and find out.
Yeah. Oh, we have record of it. Oh, thank God. Um, we're actually recording this. Perfect. Well, I think it does feel like a good time to close now. Although it's always difficult to do this when in some of the messages they said, you just wait until you start meeting the others like
The
you.
others. We
Because we do, and you brought it up earlier, we do activate each other. It's like,
have to
um,
group. It's a time of grouping right now. The seeds have to group. We have to group.
yeah,
We have to take the patterns that we have collected to date, and we have
that's what
to
they're
group them
always
with the other
saying.
patterns. Yep, this is huge. This is
I
huge.
love it. I love it. In fact, I just came across one, and they said it often in the messages, but I just came across one today, earlier, that said, you must be connecting with each other now. You must, because what happens in these interactions, it causes an explosion
Yes.
of just this rapid growth exponential growth just by our coming together and sharing the patterns,
And
as you
specifically
said.
the seeds. Yeah. So to date, we were meant to connect with others of the earth seeds that are here, those that are here on the learning program. And we sort of, there'll be those that are, sort of drawn to our inner circle. They're looking at the material, they're studying it more than most others, and so we come with these little clusters of the earth seeds, and then the star seeds connect with each other, bringing the earth seeds that are here on the learning program along with us, and that's how the exponentiality starts to occur.
Yeah, that's work I'm already doing in a variety of ways, and I'm sure you are too, but it's going to grow more.
Right.
One last quick question. We have this reality that we've just shared and we've explored and discussed and gotten happy and excited and joyful about. And then you'll go on Twitter or other social media, and then you come up to UFOs and disclosure. What is that compared to what we're talking about? In your view, what is that? What's going on there? And why do I not really care about disclosure out there? Because I feel like this is disclosure.
It is, and and it's a furthering of it. So disclosure, as you know, is from the inside out. It happens from the within us, our own being, to us each individually. But as this begins to work out into its more global aspect,
Yes.
it's identical to us taking our experiences and writing them down, grounding them in some fashion here in physical space so that we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so disclosure will ultimately happen in the same way. It will get written on the reality. And the way it gets written on the reality is, by the ETs actually coming to be here, not just on another frequency, but out here. And that is because we will have shifted,
Exactly.
as a group, we'll have made that paradigm shift from the third grade into the fourth grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that would have been my answer too if someone had asked me, and very similar to what you just answered. Yeah.
And the fourth, fifth, and sixth, by the way, is galactic space. This spectrum is spectrum of individualities, which have graduated a third grade planetary curriculum and are now having the entire galaxies as their playground. Okay, and other people call it the astral. I don't like to refer to it as the astral because most people think of the astral as a dream state. And although all of that is still accurate, it's not in the sense that most people think of it. So I will word it as galactic space. When we graduate from our planetary sphere, we will be in galactic space, and we'll have the ability to explore off planet. Yeah, but that happens in 4-5-60. That doesn't happen in 3D.
Right. Exactly.
3D is planetary consciousness. 4-5-60 is galactic consciousness. 7-8-90, universal consciousness, etc.
Yeah, I've never. See, that's the mental data, right? Which is something that I've never. It's like other people are doing that. You just do this. Let them handle that. They're experts in that.
Yeah, the patterns are fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I finally start making sense of all the patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. But there were times when, I was misinterpreting and I was thinking I had to know everything. I have to know everything. No, you don't have to know everything. You're just doing your part in this big event, right? I'm doing what I'm an expert at, or these
Exactly.
aspects of me merge with me, and I do it, and then I just celebrate when I find others like me who are doing their thing in their way, and it's like, oh yay, I'm so glad you're doing that.
And we can even take the dimensions out. You don't have to work in terms of dimensions. I mean, you're still working in terms of frequencies because it's all still going to be there. The dimensions are simply frequencies.
Yeah.
There's a planetary level of experience in which we're locked on our own planet, and all of our experience is on our own sphere. And then there's the next sphere out, which is galactic consciousness.
Mhm.
And galactic consciousness gets to experience the spheres and its galaxy and begin to allow the interpenetration of other galaxies. You know,
Mhm.
and then there's universal level consciousness. I mean, you can just take the dimensions out. We already understand that there's planetary, galactic, universal, and cosmic.
Mhm.
We've got that down, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's just the same way of the elements, right?
Mhm.
Earth, water, Earth is planetary, water is galactic or
Mhm.
astral, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of the patterns that everybody has ever given us in all of the different languages through all of what we know as time are all saying the same thing, all giving that same pattern. And in that pattern is a pattern of 5.
Mm. Awesome.
I'll flash them here for everybody on the screen when we edit.
Okay. Do you?
We're having fun. Okay, so we have permission to boast.
Yes.
It was a fun talk, wasn't it?
It was awesome.
It's going to
I
help a
knew it
lot of
would be.
people, and it'll bring a lot of people to us, and it'll help us go out to a lot of different people and help the
Yeah.
dialogues keep growing, because a lot of the seekers
Yes.
are still inside themselves. They're still hesitant to
That's
come
right.
out and start dialoguing about this with anybody, and only when they begin to do that
Mhm.
are they actually going to actualize the
Yeah.
conscious shift.
It's the
Yeah,
actual movement. We
it
have to
is,
move.
it is the actual shift.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
literally is the actual shift. And so you got to bring the inner all the way out into the outer.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And like we shift ourselves out into the next dimension out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it literally is the shift. That's why it's so important.
Yes. Thank you so much. I loved
You're
it.
welcome. Yeah, thank you. Very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. Well, I do want to do it again. So let's make sure we make that happen at some point.